Today is Thursday, February 11th, 2021. Coming up on Roland Martin's filtered day of Donald Trump's second impeachment trial. Democrats close strong. Also, will Ronald Haley, the attorney representing the family of Quawan Charles, update on that case out of Louisiana. Also, we'll speak with the co-host of CBS's show, The Doctors, who says she was a victim of racism, toxic environment. Reparations, well, that's going to be on the agenda next week in Congress. Congressman Jackson Lee will reintroduce a reparations bill in Congress. We'll discuss how some questioning whether Vice President Harris's niece, Amina Harris, is off for her success. Over in Arizona, 3 black teens were kicked out for allegedly not wearing masks. However, the teens, able to board the flight, say they were wearing masks, didn't violate any rules. Plus, we'll talk about how activists in Florida are demanding authorities drop charges against them who shot a Jacksonville police officer. He thought her home was being invaded. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's Uncle Roro, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin!
Democrats have closed their portion of the second impeachment of Donald Trump that took place in the United States Senate, and presenting more damage and showing it was clear that he was trying to incite folks to storm the U.S. Capitol on February 6th, leading to significant harm and damage, so they could have killed members of Congress. This is what they said today.
Let us pray. Almighty God, our shelter from the storms.
Let's call Trump, yes! Dude, let's tell Trump what's up.
Trump would be very upset.
And he'd be like, no, just say we love him. We love you, bro. No, he'll be happy. What do you mean? We're fighting for Trump.
He did just the opposite. He upheld the righteousness of his violent followers' cause, and he put pressure on the victim of the attack to listen to his supporters. The day after the mob attack in Lansing, Trump told Governor Whitmer to negotiate with the extremists, tweeting that the governor should just, quote, give a little to the violent men who had stormed the Capitol, threatening not only the stability of the Michigan government, but own life. As you can see, he tweeted, Governor of Michigan should give a little and put out the fire. These are very good people, but they are angry. They want their lives back in safely. See them, talk to them, deal.
You're a fucking traitor to your country. Yeah. You're a fucking traitor. Fucking
You know, you want to say that that was a mob? You want to say that was a violence? No, sir. No, ma'am. But we could have a Second Amendment rally on those same steps that we had that rally yesterday. You know, and if we do, then it's going to be a sad day because there's going to be blood running out of that building. But at the end of the day, you mark my word, we will plant our flag on the desk of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer.
He does not say the one sentence that would stop future political violence. The election was not stolen. He still hasn't said that sentence. That is why National Guard troops in full body armor still patrol outside.
He said over and over his supporters are loyal. In his own words, his supporters are the most loyal that we've seen in our country's history. And he knew that his most hardcore supporters were willing to direct violence at elected officials, indeed to attack and lay siege to a Capitol building. And he knew they would be ready to heed a call on January 6th to stop the steal by using violence to block the peaceful transfer of power in the United States. He knew they were coming. He brought them here, and he welcomed them with open arms. We hear you and love you from the Oval Office. My dear colleagues, is there any political leader in this room who believes that if he is ever allowed by the Senate to get back into the Oval Office, Donald Trump would stop inciting violence to get his way? Would you bet the lives of more police officers on that? Would you bet the safety of your family on that? Would you bet the future of your democracy on that? President Trump declared his conduct totally appropriate. So, if he gets back into office and it happens again, well, no one to blame but ourselves.
Senators, the evidence is clear. We showed you statements, videos, affidavits that prove President Trump incited an insurrection that he alone had the power to stop. And the fact that he didn't stop it, the fact that he incited a lawless attack and abdicated his duty to defend us from it, the fact that he actually further inflamed that mob, attacking his vice president while assassins were pursuing him in this Capitol, more than requires conviction and disqualification. We humbly ask you to convict President Trump for the crime for which he is overwhelmingly guilty of. Because if you don't, if we pretend this didn't happen, or worse, if we let it go unanswered, who's to say it won't happen again?
All right, folks, let's talk about this thing with our panel. Joining us right now, of course, is Reese Colbert, Black Women Views, Dr. Greg Carr, Chair of the Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University, and Erica Savage Wilson, host of Savage Politics Podcast. All right, then, so let's just go right to Greg, you, of course, law school graduate, saw all of these legal gymnastics Donald Trump's team has been trying to perform. I thought if you compared the two impeachments, this obviously was a lot more focused, a lot tighter, very clear in telling the use of video, how they laid the case out. It doesn't make a difference because Republicans don't have the guts to oppose Donald Trump. But I do think what they have laid out is for every Republican who chooses to vote for Donald Trump and not to convict him, use this against them in their reelection.
Absolutely, Roland. In fact, that's who they're arguing to. The jury are the people outside who are bearing witness to this. Those lawyers have, when the facts on your side, argue the facts. When the law is on your side, argue the law. And when the facts and the law are both not on your side, just pound on the table. And that really reveals, I think, the limits of law in any society. Law is human-made. So you've got to look at the social context. And I was listening to Dick Durbin today. Even as Durbin, they were asking him, are you talking to people? Because apparently Joe Biden did what Joe Biden has to do, apparently. It's in his DNA. I don't know what Joe Biden was looking at, but he was saying, well, I was watching and I think maybe some of the people are listening and maybe he didn't see Lindsey Graham and Rand Paul get up and walk out of the building walk out of the room according to reporters, or Tom Cotton reading the paper and Chuck Grassley reading the paper and, Rick Scott in and out. But they asked Durbin, is anybody being persuaded? Durbin was like, yeah, no, we're not going to get 17. Mitch McConnell can count. So, Cassidy and him can peel off. But he did say something interesting. He said, a persuasive argument is not going to make a difference. We're not talking to them. They're not talking to us. Nobody's talking to anybody because the folks on the other side of the aisle are weighing their lives and their political careers. Dick Durbin said, not only are we all witnesses, we're deliberating in a crime scene. And we saw what Mike Lee did yesterday. This fool testified. Now, if there were any rules outside the rules of the Senate, you can't be a witness and be a juror. But that's the point. There are no rules. The United States Senate is the trier. which means we're going to see him acquitted. We're going to see him claim exoneration. We're going to see him then do everything he can, and I suspect there will be a lot of other actions, a lot of plan Bs and Cs come up, but we're going to see him try to rally that base, and we're going to see everybody who voted to let him go doing the political calculus of seeing how many of those white nationalist votes can hold on to while gaslighting the rest of us. So, yeah, the jury is not in the United States Senate. The jury is everybody outside of it.
Here, as I look at this, Erica, is all of these state Republican parties. I mean, they are chastising any Republican who dares quote Donald Trump. The Louisiana party is going after one of their own who chose to who voted saying yes, it is constitutional to move forward. How dare you? Okay, I thought these were the strict constructionist people. I thought these were the people who were all about the Constitution, who were all about the rule of law. They have sold their souls to the devil, and they're exposing who they are. And again, the 17 votes are not there. I dare say, if you live in these states, if Ron Johnson does not vote to convict, target his ass in Wisconsin in 2022. If Toomey, I think Toomey vote to convict. He's not running in 2022 in Pennsylvania.
Right.
Portman has already announced that he's not seeking re-election in Arizona. Barr is going to be seeking re-election in North Carolina. To me, they don't have to actually go along with it. I say anybody. Rick Scott, he's already saying basically this is a waste of time. Target his butt. Marco Rubio, target his butt. See, to me, Democrats, you lay out the case, and if they choose to let this man walk free after what he incited, they should target every single one to throw them out of office.
Right, there definitely should be hell to pay because there were people that actually paid for this with their lives. The folks, 5 people passed away, and then just hear the stories, the recounts of those individual Metropolitan Police Department from Capitol Police that talked about how they were ultimately suffering from PTSD. And I'm paraphrasing it, this was not said directly, but that we've got people served in roles, Black people, roles in the Senate who have left their jobs. This has been traumatic for a multitude of people. We talked about on the platform last week how considering that there are people who will be retiring, who won't be seeking re-election, as you just stated, that Democrats need to have an action plan of running against people because people put their lives on the line, largely Black and brown folks, to ensure that the White House, Congress was controlled by Democrats, essentially. So there has to be some level of communication back to those very same people who risked life and limb, some people who didn't even make it to see Biden-Harris as the president, did not live to see that there is still slight control of Congress by Democrats. But there is something owed to say that, these people did, in fact, make sure that we have power. So in turn, we're going to make sure that we quality people that are running for these empty seats before the previous person that held the presidency decide to run, folks in his family, and that people that he that have still aligned themselves with him choose to run for those seats. And for these folks that are calling themselves retiring, that will no longer be serving the Senate capacity, to all of those people in their careers to see they're going to be going for governorships and things of that nature. So this is what it takes. It's going to take, and we've said it on this show times before, people to have a long political memory, to not allow this moment to escape. Because if nothing more, Republicans are definitely masters of puppetry to make it seem as though something that happened some moment ago was something that actually happened years ago.
It was crazy to sit there and listen to see as the Democrats talked about Donald Trump encouraging the folks who ran bus off the road in Texas. When one of the people who was sitting in the Senate who cheered on Twitter was Senator Marco Rubio. See, that's the other deal. So when they're laying out the case against Trump, they're really laying the case against the people sitting in the audience. So you're asking the people who themselves are thugs to throw out a bigger thug. Well, that they're not going to do it because if they vote against Trump, they're actually voting against themselves. They're actually saying that they are guilty. Now, I can't hear you, Reese. You on mute?
Yes, okay.
There we go.
My bad. All right, yeah. Well, here's the thing. Republicans have been co-conspirators for the entire Trump regime. All they care about is power, and in particular, white nationalist power. And so even though you would think self-preservation would kick in, because what happens when they vote to acquit is that they embolden their own people, right? Even more so the next time, so that they know that all they have to do is exercise violence in order to break the will of Republicans. That violence that they exercised clearly did not break the will of the Democrats, but it did break the will of the Republicans. You have the people, almost all of the same people, continue to object to the certification of the election even after we saw the violence that happened at the Capitol. Republicans really don't give a damn about anything unless it affects them specifically. I mean, remember Steve Scalise was shot down, right? He survived. With political violence. It was not violence from the right in that case, but they still didn't do a damn thing about gun violence. They didn't do anything about gun control. Violence does not do anything to bend them from the course of making sure that white nationalists stay in power. And so they've made the calculation that power is more important than their own safety, the safety of their families, the safety of their staff. And they've made the calculation that this is a way of life and a political reality that they're willing to deal with for God knows how long, because we've seen that the FBI, Department of Justice, is not diligently and fiercely going after these conspirators, these perpetrators, the way they would going after a bunch of Black people who are selling weed. So, this is not going to change the trajectory for the Republican Party, but they're going to be ones who are going to pay the most when their base continues to do this kind of violence and shows up against them and bullies them.
You're absolutely right. And look, the only way you deal with a bully is you tell them back the hell down. That's look, the person who only for the purpose of this, that I will give some respect is Congressman Adam Kinzinger, and even Lynn Cheney. Because in the face of all of this, they're like, no, hell no. He did this, and he's wrong. And Kinzinger said, I'm willing to lose my seat to be right. And see, Greg, that's the real issue. That's when all of these strict constructions are talking about the framers. I dare say that those white men who believed in slavery, they actually believed that all cases people would choose over party. They probably believe that, but the idea that these folks like literally damn anything. What they are saying is you can do anything you desire, short of literally murdering somebody. And you got to have it on tape, and I got to zoom in on your face so we know it's exactly you. Whatever that, you can do whatever you want. When Trump said I could kill somebody on Fifth Avenue, and my folks won't have a problem with it, they are proving he's absolutely right. They have no problem with this thug doing it. And then they're saying, oh, it's no big deal because, well, he's no longer president, so we really shouldn't be doing this because he's now left. Nah.
Yeah. No, it's true, Roland. I think, brother, it's visceral. At one level, it's visceral. I keep saying this has never been a nation. It's a lot of different people in it. It's a settler colony. And it's coming down to the point where it's unsustainable in its current form. But there are some things you can rely on. As the old song goes, everything must change, but then there's some things you can rely on. Yeah. One thing you can rely on in America is white nationalism. So the Republican Party, the white nationalist party, the party now of white nationalism, is focusing its great energy on voter suppression. This has been their strategy for the last couple of generations now, after they inherited it from the white nationalists who fled the Democratic Party and found a host, the virus of white nationalism in the Republican Party. So as we are focused on the Capitol this week, they are preparing to unleash a flurry of legislation in Georgia and other places to attack the vote. So they're playing that game. Now, here's plan B, which really isn't plan B at all. And here's part of their strategy, I think. They will exonerate Trump, which, as we just heard Erica walk us through, and Reese, I couldn't agree with you. Both of y'all, we got to have long memories on this because they are playing this calculus. If they vote to acquit Trump, they can then be reelected. They will then hand off the responsibility of making sure Donald John Trump cannot run for anything off again to Letitia James, to Carl Racine. They're going to push this off on the quote unquote blue folk so that they can do two things. They can say that we're still with you, white nationalism, till the wheels come off. You see, those N-words and those black bees, they are the ones who persecuted your champion, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And then you combine that with voter suppression. If you can get it close enough to steal in 24 and they can retake both sides and then perhaps triangulate and move 2026, we've seen this show before. The name of the show is the United States of America. And finally, on the founding fathers, I like to believe I would have had the courage to kill George Washington or James Madison, to kill Thomas Jefferson in his bed, in his sleep, perhaps poison him with ground up glass, or talk to some of the Igbo women at Montpelier and perhaps sneak something in the food of James Madison. I like to believe I would like to have been one of those people. I have no respect for them because they did believe in democracy for everybody but me and you and Reese and Eric. So therefore, you can go to hell. I know where I live. It's time for us to have the maturity to understand where we live so that we can then act in our own interests.
What we have to understand, I think, moving forward here, and this is just reality, and I have been saying it now for 11, 12 years. What we are seeing is full-on, full-bore white nationalism. What you are seeing from Fox News, what you're seeing from OANN, what you're seeing from Newsmax is literally the full-scale promotion of white supremacy, white nationalism. Erica, what these folks are, I mean, again, they used to use the phrase dog whistling. That's gone. There is no dog whistling. There is literally, say it just so everybody can hear it. They're not trying to hide it. They're not trying to dance around it. They are real clear. It is going to be a part of their entire strategy. That's their deal. They're saying, white people, we have got to stand next to each other and rally behind Donald Trump because he is the savior of white people. And then those black folks who are standing with them, those are the black folks who are the Stevens in Django. They're the ones, the brother in Mississippi who was the one who voted against black voting rights in 1890. They're the ones who sold black people out, who tried to turn in Harriet Tubman. That's who they are. Yeah, I said it. If you stand with Donald Trump and these yahoos, that's exactly who you are, Erica. And we just got to just call it like a TI is.
Sure. What Dr. Carr said, I think that is something that people need to really take, hear, and listen to again and again and again, because the decision that has to be made is what's our response going to be? And what are we going to do? Because Dr. Carr just said the state legislatures are already active in ensuring that the anti-democracy efforts continue to go forward. And so be very clear, Jim Crow traveled. Baby, he did not reside and live in the South. He traveled all throughout these United States of America. So this is something that is happening to everyone. And so if we want to have any semblance of democracy as of today's date, there is going to have to be an active push for people to get engaged with their local and state government, because everything that we're seeing at the federal level, the genesis is with your local and state government and those legislatures. And so while they're only in session for about 4 months out of the year, paying attention to all bills that have been introduced within your specific state legislature, understanding what is happening with your city, municipality, those budgets, where resources are being shifted to, are definitely going to be key, because we are now in 2021. 2022 is already on us. And because folks do not stop campaigning, we cannot stop being just as active as our ancestors were to preservation of our very own life, because people have to make a choice. You're either going to be on the side of the son of a Klansman, or you're going to be on the other side. And if you're going to be on the other side requires a level of fight, a level of consistency in engaging your local and state government, period.
And this is what I mean by, again, folks, this open embrace of white nationalism. This is Tucker Carlson last night on Fox News.
So what does all this mean exactly? We're not sure what it means, and we're not going to speculate. We do know for certain that the known facts of what happened on January 6th deviate in very important ways from the story they are now telling us, including the story they told us today in the impeachment hearings. And in many places, the known facts bear no resemblance to the story they're telling. They're just flat out lying. There's no question about that. The question is, why would they lie about this? For an answer, think back to last spring. Beginning on Memorial Day, BLM and their sponsors in corporate America completely changed this country. They changed this country more in 5 months than it had changed in the previous 50 years. How'd they do that? They used the sad death of a man called George Floyd to upend our society. Months later, we learned that the story they told us about George Floyd's death was an utter lie. There was no physical evidence that George Floyd was murdered by a cop. The autopsy showed that George Floyd almost certainly died of a drug overdose, fentanyl. But by that point, facts didn't matter. It was too late. Cities had been destroyed, along with the fabric of this country itself. Scores of people had been killed. Democratic partisans used a carefully concocted myth, a lie, to bum rush America into overturning the old order and handing them much more power. It worked flawlessly. So why wouldn't they do it again?
So here's the deal, Reese, and I want people. So here's what I'm going to do. For everybody who's watching, I'm going to purposely play this again, but I want y'all to listen to key phrases. Overturn the previous order. So listen to phrases. So do this here. Do this, Henry. Put this in the 2 box. Play it as I watch it. And then we're going to, because I need everybody who's watching, I need y'all to understand that we're about to translate whiteness. We're about, for everybody who's watching right now, we're about to translate whiteness. So listen to this. And so I'm going to talk. I'll wait for him to say it. I might pause it, but just watch this.
So what does all this mean exactly? We're not sure what it means, and we're not going to speculate.
Okay, let's just stop right there. Don't know what this means. We don't know what this means. We're going to speculate. But you know what the video means. It means a bunch of white people went to the Capitol and tried to overturn the results of the election. But you don't want to speculate, which is what your network does every night. Watch this.
We do know certain that the known facts, what happened on January 6th, deviate in very important ways from the story they are now telling us, including the story they told us today in impeachment hearings.
What exactly are those known facts deviate? Really? Okay. That's interesting.
And in many places, the known facts bear no resemblance to the story they're telling. They're just flat out lying.
So what are they? See, if I'm going to say you're lying, then what I'm going to do is I'm then going to provide you evidence that they're lying. That's not what white nationalist Tucker Carlson does. What he does is says, oh, they're lying. And then his white nationalist audience goes, hey, that's right. Not a hit of evidence to back it up. But listen.
There's no question about that. The question is, why would they lie about this? For an answer, think back to last spring. Beginning Memorial Day, BLM and their sponsors, corporate America.
BLM and their sponsors, corporate America. Trust me, corporate America is not trying to sponsor BLM. The response to the death of George Floyd was when white people protested. Now, I want y'all to see what Tucker just did there. BLM and their corporate sponsors. He's saying to white people, these corporate people giving these black people money. But the uproar led by white people. Now, I am not diminishing at all the activism of Black Lives Matter. What I'm trying to explain to you is that the reason corporate America responded the way they did after George Floyd, not because people were protesting and marching, because white people were.
Completely changed this country. They changed this country more in 5 months than it had changed in the previous 50 years.
Oh, I mean, just pause that one right there. Reese, I'll pull you in.
What the hell's changed?
He literally, oh my God, they changed more in 5 months than what was changed in 50 years. Really? Please, but go ahead.
Where? I'm trying to find the change. White people still running shit. What y'all talking about? Did I miss the part where black people running the country? We don't even have a black woman in the U.S. Senate. The fuck are you talking about? Tucker Carlson? It's still the same. Yes, we have the Biden-Harris administration, but white people are still running shit. So what is you talking about? You making stuff up. Kyle Rittenhouse is on the loose. You had a judge today who refused to increase his bail, refused to require his address be reported to the district attorney, prosecuting him for killing 2 white people. What has changed?
Right.
Even the Democratic Party, let me say this one thing. They have a front runner for the U.S. Senate that hunted down a black man in his truck with a shotgun who was unarmed because he thought he heard some fire shots. Ain't shit changed in this country. Not yet. We looking for the change. We voted for the change. But ain't shit changed yet, Tucker Carlson. Especially not for your white ass.
Now, watch this.
How'd they do that? They used the sad death of a man called George Floyd to upend our society. Months later, we learned that the story they told us about George Floyd's death was an utter lie. There was no physical evidence that George Floyd was murdered by a cop. The autopsy showed that George Floyd almost certainly died of a drug overdose, fentanyl. But by that point, facts didn't matter.
Greg, didn't I just read today that Attorney General Bill Barr turned down a plea deal that Derek Chauvin, the cop who killed George Floyd, who kneed on his neck, agreed to, because according to the story, Barr was too lenient. So, if there was no evidence, why would the white cop plead guilty?
Well, he's trying to take out the possibility that he'll be convicted. I don't expect that Derek Chauvin will be convicted. I would be surprised, mildly surprised, if he is convicted. But in terms of Tucker Carlson saying, and you're doing a beautiful job, man, as you say, you have the fact that you have to do it at all speaks to our lack of maturity in some ways, unfortunately. But there was a libel suit mounted against Fox and Tucker Carlson specifically last year, and it was dismissed by one of the district court judges in Southern District of New York, Mary Kay Viscaso, who was put on the bench by Donald Trump. Those of you keep arguing that elections don't matter. But do you know what she said? She agreed with Fox's defense lawyers, the lawyers for Tucker Carlson. They said that she said the general tenor of his show should inform a viewer that Carlson is, quote, not stating actual facts about topics he discusses, and instead is engaged in exaggeration and non-literal commentary. In other words, the Trump-appointed federal judge told the people suing Tucker Carlson, his defense is, you can't believe shit I say.
Right.
So understand.
Right. That was their legal argument. That was literally their legal argument. Okay, now, again, I'm going to walk people through this here, because I need y'all to understand.
With the fabric of this country itself, scores of people had been killed. Democratic partisans used a carefully concocted myth, a lie, to bum rush America into overturning the old order and handing them much more power. It worked flawlessly. So why wouldn't they do it again?
Okay, all right. So the reason I'm playing that, because what we're doing there, Erica, is walking people through the white playbook. See, the white nationalist playbook, y'all. We can lose it. I'm done with it. The reason the white nationalist playbook, y'all. The white nationalist playbook is that black man. He died because he was a drug addict. He had the drugs in him, and y'all, watch it. The world order have changed the country. The fabric of the fabric of who we are and what we've been, and it's all changing. See, y'all gotta understand that this is what they're taking our country. Everything up to this point that we have run, we have controlled, we have dominated, they are taking what is ours. I keep telling people this scene from oh my God, the Madden film, The Good Shepherd, is critically important because it explains, y'all, I keep telling y'all this scene in 34 seconds is all you need to understand Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, and the entire focus of Fox News. If y'all want to understand what we're dealing with, when we talk about white supremacy, when we talk about white nationalism, when we talk about the Washington Post running this story saying, oh, most of the people who are rioting on January 6th, they economic troubles. Well, shit, I can show you that at any damn rally involving black people and Latino people and a bunch of white folks, because folks have economic problems. But here's the other deal. If you one of those folks that you had bad loans from businesses or whatever, trust me, you have a better economic condition than most people. But if y'all want to understand what we're up against, I need everybody to watch this. This 34 seconds right here, Erica, explains the United States of America and the view of white America. I didn't say all, but the overarching view of white America.
Let me ask you something. We Italians, we got our families and we got the church. The Irish, they have the homeland. The Jews, their tradition. Even the niggers, they got their music. What about you people, Mr. Carlson? What do you have?
The United States of America. The rest of you are just visiting.
Do you see the look of Joe Pesci right there? Even he was like, damn. That, y'all, right there explains Fox News. Erica, go ahead.
Yep. And after genocide, after enslavement, after being wet nurses, after being lynched with our children, future generations in our belly, after black men were lynched as well, after the continued atrocities that we face, that we did, in fact, build this country. Black folks built this country. My people, your people, Dr. Carr's people, Reese's people built this damn country. We are still very much treated as the footstool. And so, you know, honestly, you know, this is really a real place of, again, decision making. There's nothing about the old order, to use Tucker Carlson's language, that's going to change. That economy of language that's used to talk to those folks who are very much so, they're one with their whiteness. They walk in agreement with the son of Klansmen and everybody that supports them, no matter what their title is. The decision that has to be made, again, is what are we going to do in response to this? This is what we have faced for hundreds and hundreds of years. Clearly, there's nothing that's going to change on the other side. How will we respond, and respond in a way that will preserve our very own people? And I think that that is really a resounding message. We saw it with the 1619 Project. If you have people that would opt out of Black History Month, so to speak, if you have people that are serving in a Congress that would go as far to propose legislation that would fund schools, public schools, teaching history, the damn history of this failed project, as Dr. Carr says, of this failed state, how much more do you think that they would do around your life? So this is really just a time for people really to make a decision because it's not going to change.
Well, the thing here is, in final comment here, Greg, before I go to a break and we talk to Dr. Rachel Nett, is that what we have to understand is things are changing, but that's what they're most afraid of. See, they're like, ooh, how long can we hold on to this? See, that scene from The Good Shepherd, that was from the beginning of the CIA. That was when whiteness in America in the 20th century was at its apex. That's when whiteness in America, coming after World War II, then began to spread colonialism all across the country. That's when across the world. That's when we took over Iranian oil and overthrew Mossadegh, and which led, of course, that's why the reason the Middle East is what it is today is because of that action when the British did not want to do it. America said, yo, we got it. We good. We'll do it for y'all. See, Anglo-Iranian oil, y'all, today is called BP, British Petroleum.
That's right.
It's the same thing. They were taking 93% of all the profits from the Iranian oil, only giving them 7%. So I just need our people to understand. So that scene there, that was in the 40s and the 50s there. Whiteness was supreme, and guess what happened? Black movement.
That's right.
Let me say it again. I need to walk people through. I need to teach y'all this because too many of us will fall asleep in class. The reason Fox News and the Tucker Carlsons of the world and the Sean Hannitys and the Rush Limbaugh, who's dying of lung cancer, and the Laura Ingrams and the Republican Party, the reason they are who they are is because black people forced America to do what Dr. King said, be true to what you said on paper. What they didn't realize is the same people who kept black people from reading didn't realize they also read their Constitution, Greg. And when we read their Constitution, we used their Constitution against them and threw their own words back in their face, and they were like, dang, these Negroes done started reading. And then that was a reason why they did not want us to read. And so this country has been in rebellion since 1968, after the death of King, because they were like, damn it, y'all had the audacity to actually think you were equal like us. And we said, that's what you said on paper. Be true to what you said on paper. And that's what the Mercers are rebelling. And that's why they funded Breitbart. And that's why they funded Parler. That's why they're funding these people here, because they said, damn. And that's why that's why they want to control the Supreme Court, because they are angry that the federal courts was the place that black people went for redress, and we got it. Not everything, but we got it. And they were like, nah, we got to stop this. That is America. Greg, close us out before we go to break.
Oh, yeah, very quickly, Roland. I agree with you. You know, it's hard for us, and this is probably the greatest mass ignorance in this country, is that we are trained from the beginning of formal schooling to think about this country in isolation. The narrative you just led us through is impossible to understand without understanding the rest of the world. The United States has been a world power. The 20th century, they call it the American century, but it was really only about half of the American century.
Yep.
The United States became a global power after the Civil War, and as the old Europe began to go and turn its eyes away from its former colonies into Africa, into Asia, and then that moment didn't last but about half a century. In the 1920s, when you see the Garvey movement and you see black internationalism, the fear they have of Russia, which really is the fear of black people and others engaged in global solidarity, that's when you see domestic progress made, because what they're trying to do is use this country as a safety valve and keep it together, because the folks who are really benefiting in America, finance capital, the people who have the money and the resources, they have never used the flag as anything other than a holding place, a parking lot for their international capital. So you have to release some pressure. So you let these non-whites that you call non-whites, the Irish and Italians and others, you let them into whiteness. That's why Pesci and them, the Italians, yeah, but y'all became white because the domestic exchange was, you don't link up with the rest of these people and certainly don't look beyond these borders, and we'll give you a trade-off for it. Fast forward to after World War II. That is when the United States really became a global power, between World War I and World War II, as the old Europe collapsed, and then they win the nuclear race with Germany, this kind of thing. The CIA comes into existence in the late 40s. Part of their job is to suppress the global freedom movement, liberation struggle in the Caribbean, Latin America, Africa. And while they're doing that, Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King go to Ghana in 1956, Kwame Nkrumah's inauguration. That scares the shit out of the Eisenhower administration. So when you see the Little Rock Nine, when you see, you know, Brown versus Board, those things are domestic attempts to court the black elites so that they don't continue to look outward. And then you see Roy Wilkins and them jump on Paul Robeson and Du Bois and them say, yeah, you Negroes is out there with the Russians. No, fool, you being used. Finance capital needs the United States as its holding spot. Meanwhile, they want you to focus exclusively domestically. Fast forward to the 1960s. The thing is about to come apart. Because that black freedom movement that you mentioned, Ella Baker and them, and these young people in SNCC, they're talking to the Africans, they're in the Caribbean, and this thing is scaring the shit out of these people. So you see some progress, the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, Lyndon Johnson trying to address this thing, perhaps, and that's why Tucker Carlson says 50 years. Because to domestic white, the only thing they have is their whiteness. They have no international links. They risked it all to come here, and this is the ground on which they will stand and die. They think the last 50 years has been hell as they didn't follow rearguard action. But let's end with this. Where we are today, baby, it's all coming apart, baby. You ain't having no babies nowhere. The United States, Europe, Latin America. And so what you see this,
and that's why Tucker had on a Muslim sister to argue against bringing more African immigrants to Europe, when she admitted lying on her own paper to get to Europe as well. So they want to use black people because you're absolutely right. What's happening in Europe, they're not having babies in Germany. They're not having babies in Italy. They're not having babies in France. Well, guess where you're going to have people come from? Immigration. The same in America. They mad white folks ain't having babies. The annual death rate in 10 states is higher than the annual white birth rate. So the reason they against the Latinos coming in, they're like, damn, because hell, they come in, we losing white. That's all 2043, which is why I keep trying to explain to folk, y'all can spend y'all time watching these other little shows.
Come on.
Who are driving their narrative. That's why you got to watch this show to understand there's a whole new narrative that you should be hearing from and learning about to educate you. Speaking of that, Rachel Ross, the former co-host of the CBS show The Doctors, has come out publicly and talk about her experience on the syndicated day talk show. She said it was hostile and it made Ellen like a walk in the park. She said that the whole culture is toxic. The executive producer constantly yells at people. She even cussed me out once. There was also always something about my hair. They were constantly making comments and harassing me about my hair. Now, according to reports, multiple people have complained to the show's executive producer, often shot down pictures involving African Americans and berated producers who wanted to book non-white experts. Not only this, folks, the overarching issues of the toxic workplace at CBS. Now, the EP says, I am devastated by these unfounded and shocking allegations. I stay by my character and know the truth. I have been a champion for talent and inclusive stories through my entire career. While it's impossible to prove that I did not do something, I can absolutely say these hurtful are not true. Rachel Ross says her contract was not renewed. She was iced out after she met with CBS about the alleged toxic environment. She's doing this right now. Doc, how you doing?
Hey, good. How about yourself, Roland?
I'm doing good. What has it been like for you since you publicly talked about your experience at the Doctors? This, of course, comes in the wake of the reports we're dealing with WCBS and their owned and operated stations, and we at NABJ called for the firing of Peter Dunn and David Friend. That's on the CBS O&O. But we've gotten phone calls from people saying that this is across all CBS. It's CBS Radio, it's CBS News, it's CBS Syndication, it's CBS NewsPath, it's CBS O&Os. It is entire corporate culture. What has it been like for you since you talked about this publicly?
Well, it's been interesting because when I went forward, the reporter called me and I gave my take on it. I recognized that this is something that all of us deal with, whether you work for a small business in your town, whether you're working for CBS, and I'm sure even you, Roland, have had situations like this where we're in these positions where there's somebody that's kind of harassing us, doing microaggressions, and really you kind of grin and bear it because you just have to be happy to be there. So for me personally, being able to talk about it has been like this huge weight lifted off of me because we're Black folks, and part of this is embarrassing. It's embarrassing that you succumb to the abuses that you do when you go to these things. Everybody thought it was such a great thing for me to be on the show and was wondering what happened. So it was really kind of like this massive weight of bricks coming off of me to actually share some of the experiences, and the article just really touched on the surface of it. I mean, when we say it's toxic, I mean, it was beyond toxic. And, Dr. Ian is there now, and God bless him, because I can't imagine that things are any better for him either.
One of the things you said it best, folks that get excited when they see us in these positions, not realizing what happens behind closed doors, not realizing the kind of comments that are made about us when we're in the room, but most importantly, when we're not in the room as well. And one of the things that we have said to George Chicks, who is the brother who's over now all of CBS, you've got to examine your entire culture. And if it's here and here, and then you hear it's here, then you hear it's here, this is not isolated.
No, and if you think about how many lives are ruined and how many careers are offset and how much stress is created and how much chronic disease that results from just the stress that these toxic situations sit with us, it's just absolutely not fair. And so I'm glad that organizations exist that really fight for us and put the things out there, because for me, it's like, I don't want the next generation to have to go through that. I don't want, like, if my daughters decide they want it on television, for them to have to sit and worry and get that feeling when you're walking onto the set, like, what are they going to mess with me about today? What's going to be the thing? Am I going to be selling shoes today, or am I going to actually be able to talk about being a doctor? So I know you've had some of your own media experiences, and I would venture to say, if you got all of us, all the Black people who are actually going to be honest and the truth instead of acting like everything's great so that we can get the next job, that if you put us all in a room, that each and every one of us could go through and highlight at least 10 things that have happened that have been ridiculously racist and that we've sat through and acted like it didn't even happen. So I love to have the opportunity to share on a platform like yourself. I'm very selective about who I'm doing any interviews with because, in this environment, you never know which direction they're coming from for you. So I appreciate the opportunity.
The thing that also is sort of, it sort of pisses me off. This person, Dominique Johnson, puts on YouTube, get your own show, stop trying to be up these white folks' ass. First of all, Dominique, do you work at a Black-owned company? Where you work? See, I love the people who always are quick to say, get your own, which is also why I ask, see, here's a perfect example. See, this is why sometimes you should be real careful when you say something. So this person, Dominique Johnson, says, get your own show. So then I asked Dominic, well, are you a supporter of the Roland Martin Unfiltered fan club? He goes, no. Well, Dominic, you part of the damn problem. See, it's real easy to say, get your own show, but if folk like you don't fund us, well, who the hell you think gonna fund us? See, you just don't get your own show for the hell of it. Like, this stuff costs money, equipment, monitors, lights, cameras, connectivity, you name it. And so the reality is, I'm not going to use that argument, always get your own. No, I want us to be treated fairly, whether you have a show at the doctor's, whether I'm independent over here or elsewhere. But part of the problem is, it's a whole bunch of us who talk shit, who then don't turn around and don't support us.
That's right. That's right. No, absolutely. And I think Dominique has to kind of go back and reevaluate that because it's absolutely true. I mean, sure, we can go get a show, but shouldn't we be able to sit on a show with other people, with white people, and be treated just like they are? You know, like why should the Black doctor be singled out to be treated one way and everybody else treated a different way? That is not fair. That's not how things should be. My ancestors built the country. I mean, so why do I need to feel marginalized in certain situations? It's not fair. And that's why I spoke up. I had the opportunity to go off the record or on the record. And I recognized that there was a lot of weight if you go on the record. If you say, yeah, I'm Dr. Rachel Ross, and this was my experience, that's a big deal. And it was easy for me, because I recognize that by doing that, perhaps we're putting a little pressure on people like CBS to stop the madness and to just treat people with the respect that they should be treated with, and fairly. Because I did complain. I mean, I complained when I was in the position. I was like, well, look, I've never been treated like this. I don't even know what to do there. I went to a HBCU for medical school. I practiced medicine in Gary, Indiana. I am in my own little isolated bubble, and then I get here and I'm treated like a second-class citizen. Something about this isn't right. So if I go to CBS and tell them all of the things that I'm experiencing, as well as some of the producers who their stories are 10 times worse than mine are undergoing, and they do nothing about it, that is a problem. So I'm glad that we're holding them to the fire. They've put an African-American over CBS now, to try to iron some of these kinks out. But I think that they have a problem that runs way deeper than any of us can ever know or realize.
Well, what is happening and what's running deeply is whiteness. It's whiteness. See, again, earlier today, Annie Apple, her son Eli Apple plays in the NFL, and she was remarking about she said, these sports journalists sure doing a whole lot protecting whiteness. And I said, Annie, that's because most of the sports editors and the radio talk show host, I said, and the columnist, I said, there's more racism in the press box than there is on the field.
Ooh.
I mean, that's just the reality. The media industry is largely run by white men. It is.
That's right.
And I'm talking about not just white men in the executive suite. I'm talking about white men on the network level, on the O&O level, the syndication level, when it comes to agents, when it comes to the business managers, when it comes to the... See, we can go down the whole line. And so, I mean, every time a Hollywood holler liberal Hollywood, I'm like, no, don't holler liberal Hollywood, because there's a whole bunch of racist liberals in Hollywood because they also shut black people out. And so we got to call it what it is and not dance around it, because folk think if you check to the UNCF, NAACP, you good. Not if you keeping black people from being able to be empowered themselves and being able to grow and thrive.
No, that's awesome. That's right. Now, I'm going to leave you with this funny story. So I had just started on the doctors, and I was under the impression that, hey, I'm relatable. I'm on here. I can handle sex topics. I can handle the health topics. So I am in. This is great. And so as a pep talk before I went out, the executive producer goes, and he's like, you get out there and you be like, I represent the African Americans. Just be it. Be sassy. You represent African Americans. And I just remember at that point just feeling kind of like, I mean, I know every day I represent African Americans because, that's who I am. But for him to sit and tell me this, that was kind of the beginning of it, where I really recognized, I was like, oh, I'm the black girl on the show. Okay, well, let me see what that's going to be like. So it is time. Time is up. We were using that mantra for a really long time. Time's up. Time's up for us to have to play in the back and to pretend like everything's okay when it's not. I'm actually embarrassed that I sat there for so long and endured some of the stuff that I went through. But hey, it is a learning experience. And I'm hoping that by doing interviews like yours and speaking out, that it gives those of us who are sitting and have to go back tomorrow to a toxic work environment, to give you the power to be like, you know what, I'm not doing that anymore. And this is why.
Dr. Rachel, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Always a pleasure.
All right. Chat with you soon.
Okay.
Folks, I want to go back to my panel here. The thing here when we talk about how we are to confront what's going on, there is sort of this expectation that And if you just keep it quiet and not say anything. And I remember when it was April of 2013 when my last day at CNN, and I was talking to someone, and we were just talking about, again, how things are. And I remember when before I left, I was actually named Journalist of the Year with the National Association of Black Journalists. And did Jeff Zucker have the CNN PR people issue a statement? No. In fact, none of the executives internally said a word to me. 2 executives. 2 executives said, congratulations on this honor. Thought that Susan Grant and Greg D'Alba. Those are two high-ranking executives. The rest of them completely ignored it. And I remember Mark Lamont was doing HuffPost Live. And Reese, he asked me, the discussion was me, I think Giselle Fernandez, and I forgot who the third person was. And we were talking about, media, and we're talking about what we deal with. And I was asked the question by Mark, Roland, why do you think you didn't get a show? And I said point blank, I didn't get a show because there were some people there who were uncomfortable with having a black host, especially one with an opinion. Oh, man. That caused all media. I put a story up that caused all kind of hell. Folks were blasting me. I can't believe you said that. I'm white and I didn't get a show that. Wasn't because I was white. I was like, dude, there were a lot of white in front of you. So really? And this is what I said. You see, I said, y'all gonna realize I'm not going to be that person who waits until I'm 75 and I'm writing my memoirs to talk about what I went through. I said, somebody in the moment has to speak to what's happening in the moment in order for stuff to change. And that really is what folks don't want to confront when you're in the moment, because what Dr. Rachel is wrong. Yes, what happens in this industry, it's, we're not going to hire them. Oh, I know for a fact. I mean, I watch some of these other folk, and I don't just mean the black people. I'm talking about, I watch some of these white commentators. They ain't carry my iPad.
Nope.
They can't carry my iPad. And I got 3 of them. They can't carry not now one. But I know these white executives, no. Too militant, too black, too opinionated, too honest. Yeah, we want honest, but we don't really want honest. We want provocative, but we don't really want provocative. We want entertaining, we don't want entertaining. So I know white execs have been blocking me from network opportunities because I'm not going to play that Negro be quiet game.
I mean, it takes great courage to stand in your truth and to be unapologetic and be able to risk everything, in that moment. And that's not something that, I will be honest, most of us are cut out for when our livelihoods are on the line. I mean, I'm all unbossed, unfiltered on Twitter, but at my job, I ain't calling out white supremacy and shit like that. I'm not stupid. I got a pension to maintain, okay? So I know when to be Reese Colbert, financial manager, and when to be Black Women Views, okay? So I say shout out to Rachel Ross for now coming out with the truth. And I do completely understand there is a level of we have to get along to go along to get along. We have to play the game. We have to play the politics. That transcends every industry. It's not just a media thing. It's a Black person in America thing. We all make calculations on a daily basis of what we're going to deal with to keep a roof over our head and put a food on our tables. And the bad part about it, the catch-22 is, I know at my job, I know in corporate America, if you go to HR, your ass getting fired. Okay, don't matter how right you are. So you have to find a way to navigate. You have to find a way to manage up, manage around, stay somewhat authentic as you could be, and keep a paycheck from a 9-to-5 job. And you find a way to make it work. That's just the reality that we deal with. But then when you come out, even if there isn't anything at stake for you in that moment, people say, well, you got what you deserve. Why didn't you say anything then? Or whatever the situation may be, you should have just been happy to have a job. So it's almost a lose-lose situation. And we all end up having to individually advocate for ourselves and cope with it. And in some cases, go through traumatic and damaging and unhealthy experiences. But what we could do as a collective is do a better job when the people who do put themselves on the line do speak out, where we wrap our arms around them and we say, what you did was effed up. We're going to hold you accountable as a collective. What you are doing, what the NABJ is doing with CBS, what you've done time and time again with different networks and holding them accountable, that's how we make change, because we are stronger together and we can actually move the envelope forward if we do a little bit less shaming of the people and what they went through. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, Roland. I'm just saying,
right,
if we do a little bit, that's what the person was doing that you were calling out. Well, just go make your own stuff. Yeah, okay. Who do you work for? Who signed your paychecks? And what Black stuff do you support? We do a little bit less shaming. We do a little bit of collective advocating for ourselves and saying this is unequivocally unacceptable. But too often, we're not even willing to do that. We're not even willing to do that. And that's why we keep fighting these same battles over and over again and trying to go in on the person who was on the receiving end instead of going up against the power structure.
The thing here, how we move forward, Erica, is, and I agree with Reese, also realize for everybody who say they march with King, 95% on the line.
Come on.
The real truth is this here. We got a whole bunch of park lot militants in Black America.
My.
Sure.
We got a whole bunch of people. Oh, they will talk some shit in the parking lot. Oh, they bold in the parking lot. But when you walk in that building, even if you change your tone, even if you, you speak up and then you like, your ass gonna say, no, you by yourself on that one. Just like I had a corporate exec tell me, Erica, she said to me, if I hear somebody say it's lonely at the top, she said, I blame your ass because you didn't bring nobody with you.
Preach it.
Hello.
Preach it.
She said, if you Black and you say it's lonely at the top, she said, that's your fault because you didn't bring nobody with you when you got the job. And so all I'm saying is, you can't show me Jack where we've gotten ahead by just sitting here being quiet, keep your head down and moving forward. Somebody, you got to have the inside outside. Somebody got to be the quiet one, making thing happen, but you still got to have that Malcolm. Because remember, Martin was a radical until Malcolm came along. And then Martin became the moderate. Malcolm became the radical. And then when Martin was there, guess what? Stokely came along. And it was like, oh, hell, that looked like damn. But when Martin spoke out against the Vietnam War, he went from moderate to outcast. I'm just saying. Yeah. Go right ahead.
Absolutely. That's right. Yeah, you're right. And we have to think about these iconic figures that we're always talking about, the level of popularity that he had at the time of their passing. You know, we're all very, aware of Dr. King. His popularity was waning and deeply dismal at the time of his passing. So it is definitely not popular to be quote unquote radical, but it's not definitely that when we are the beneficiaries of that. And a part of this, I think, is really kind of fueled by the keyboard cowardice, not social media. So people are very much so able to share their opinions, what needs to be done, what has to be done. But when the unseen part of that, which is the actual work, that's when we pretty much see the parking lot empty. So again, kudos to Dr. Ross for her level of courage. And it takes all of us to be able to do that very thing in some small way on our particular positions. Even if we're not going to be as bold to leave or to call something out. If you do have a position that allows for you to be able to expand programming or expand something to bring in other people, then that's what you want to do. So people just have to find out what way that they can bring about change and operate in their lane at their job and do that. And
look, Greg, everybody's not going to do what I do. They're not going to do it the way I do it. But here's what I do know. Look, it ain't a doubt that the Black folks at CN who have been able to do what they have been doing in the last 7 years, if I didn't do what I did those 6 years there, those opportunities would not be there. I mean, that ain't me saying it. That's what other folks at CNN have said. They say, Ro, you made this stuff possible because you were not willing just to be quiet and accept it and take it and go along to get along.
That's right, Roland. And with all due respect, I wouldn't refer to you or the generation that kicked in doors so that you could get the Max Robinsons and the Dorothy Gillums. I wouldn't refer to any of them, any of you, Mal Good, our frat brother. I wouldn't refer to any of you as trailblazers, because the question becomes, what is your objective? If your objective is employment, then sure, being the first to do this or the first to that's important. But when you said stand in your truth, that hit me right between the eyes. Just like when Dr. Ross said, I went to HBCU medical school, I practiced medicine in Gary. When you think about the fact that when you see a black person in white media, white commercial media, it's no different than seeing a black politician. You're not looking at someone who A, got there by themselves, or B, was let in because of a change in the structure that was anything other than a response to the rest of us. Now, these shows, for example, you're going to hear Russell Maroon Schultz or Mutulu Shakur, or the many black political prisoners who did give up everything in the 1960s and 70s and have been locked up for decades. Mumia Abu-Jamal, for that matter, Leonard Peltier. Let's talk about the Native Americans. I mean, these are for Assata Shakur, who couldn't even come see her family no more, is in Cuba somewhere. There are levels of commitment to the progress of the collective. Individual Negroes are not only unimpressive, they have been the single greatest beneficiary of mass movements throughout the history.
Right.
So when I see a Van Jones, when I see a Joy Reid, I'm not looking at someone who is there because of their own merits alone. I'm looking at somebody who's there because they have counted up the cost, these commercial interests, and they realize we can't keep running our cousins out here in front of these people every day. And so the choice those people have to make in those white spaces is, as Reese has said, a calculus. Is my objective to stay in this space? Because if it is, there's certain things I'm going to have to do.
Right.
It's very interesting. When you mentioned Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, used to always say, as he changed his name again, a man who was basically put out of this country and had to basically travel but he said, when you take care of the people, if you sacrifice and struggle for the people will take care of you.
Right.
Martin King was able to do what he did because he came out of an independent black formation called the Black Church. Make no mistake about it. I was watching Jimmy Walker the other day talking about Good Times, and when John Amos, said, this Bethune, no, hell no, and the Godfather, because on television it's about the white Godfather, whether it be Norman Lear, whether it be Philip McGraw and his son, whether it be at that point John Amos got to go. And Jimmy Walker, I thought, gave a very excellent description of what you have to do to stay in those spaces. You got to basically see what the white market wants and meet that demand. And in this moment, with black people in the streets and more white people in the streets and people all over the world saying this system cannot be sustained, yeah, of course Eddie Gall can get a little bass in his voice. Of course Tiffany Cross and Joy Reid can schedule and then Hudson, because in their heart of hearts in that parking lot, that's what they want to say. But never mistake black faces in white spaces. Black people getting published by these white publishers who all of a sudden want to talk about black history like they saying something that isn't something Lerone Bennett was saying for decades. They saying it because they are able to say it because these people see these other people, as you said, in the street, which means y'all better support this space right here, because the more you support this space right here, the more black people going to be on CNN free to see what they want. Watch and see if it ain't true.
Well, and keep in mind, when you do see those people on CNN, MSNBC, many of them came to black spaces. And the reason why this is vital, y'all, the reason why this is vital is because of the next story we're about to cover. I've not seen any mainstream network, even ones hosted by folks, covering the story of Quawan Bobby Charles. The 15-year-old black boy found dead in a sugarcane field in November after investigators say he was last seen with a white woman and her 17-year-old son. Now, she has been arrested. But the question is, what's going on? She's been arrested for his murder. What exactly is happening? Ronald Haley is the family attorney for Quawan Charles' family. He joins us right now. Ronald, it is stunning to me that when you hear this story, national media has not focused on this. Is your phone ringing? People at CNN and MSNBC and Fox News and NBC and NBC and CBS calling you to figure out how did this 15-year-old boy all of a sudden come up murdered? And we actually cover news. So let me warn everybody right now. This last night, I'm giving you a 60-second warning before we actually show the photo. This precocious young man, to see that look, that photo, and then to see how he was found. Badly beaten, teeth ticked in, face just scarred. I mean, who's shining a light on what's going on down there in Iberia Parish?
Listen, myself and activists on the ground are beating the pavement for truth and transparency in this case. As it relates to Janet Irvin, it is a step in the right direction.
Right.
As I told some folks the other day, justice is never too late. However, in the case of Janet Irvin, we felt that the charge of failing to report a missing child could have been brought against her days after Quawan's death. And we felt that that was the domino to drop, that maybe folks that have information in regards to his death and cover-up, because we believe there is a cover-up in regards to his death, would come forward and tell the truth. If not for guilt, maybe self-preservation.
What's also bothersome here is the initial reaction of the cops.
Absolutely.
For them to say, oh, he's probably at a football game. How do you know that? Like, it just, should you just make that assumption? And again, this is what we talk about when whiteness in America. If a 15-year-old white girl had come up missing, no way in hell they would have blown that off.
No, look, what's absolutely frustrating, Roland, is this. We know that after they started taking it somewhat seriously, they pinged his cell phone. They ping his cell phone, less than 12 hours later, he's found. What's sad about that is, based on our own independent investigation, we were able to prove that Quawan Charles was alive at least the next day.
Are you saying that, wait a minute, hold on, go back. So you're saying that had they actually shown any interest in pinged this phone in the first few hours,
he's in trouble and not dead.
Wow. 12 hours later, they ping his phone, and they're able to
find him in condition and face down in the sugar cane field. And what's more troubling, but any piece of information we get, we're trying to piece together a jigsaw puzzle here. The final autopsy report came out from Iberia, and it had some telling things in there. They still claim the cause of death is drowning. However, they cannot determine whether or not the cause of death was via suicide, via accident, or homicide. Well, I think you could look at that report and listen, we all took our ACTs, SATs, standardized tests. You know, they give us those paragraphs, and you're trying to find out maybe not the perfect answer, but the most logical answer. They said that the individuals that he was with claimed that he woke up in a fit and said he's going to kill himself. Well, that's pretty convenient. The folks that are being looked at for his murder want to pass it off as some type of suicide. Well, the coroner, in his own report, states that suicides by drowning are rare, but they happen. In Quawan's case, he's found in 1.5 feet of water. I would suggest that drowning in 1.5 feet of water isn't a rarity, it's an anomaly if it did happen. So you could cross that out. Then folks said, look, maybe he has some drugs, alcohol in the system. Well, according to the toxicology report, low levels of THC, low levels of alcohol, and some of that alcohol could be contributed to the decomposition of the body, because we know that as the body decomposes, sometimes it naturally produces ethanol. But those levels were low, which means by process of elimination, Roland, he wasn't too high, too drunk, slipped and fell into 1.5 feet of water and didn't know where he was at and drowned himself. Further, we know he had no underlying health conditions. This was not an aneurysm or heart attack. He did not have epilepsy, anything that could have rendered him incapacitated in that condition. So what does that leave us? It leaves a homicide. If a 15-year-old child ran away from your house and saying, you know what, I'm going to kill myself, I'm going crazy, and you don't call his mama, you don't call his daddy, you don't even call the police until 1.5 days later on your lunch break. Again, If we're taking an ACT, SAT, LEAP score, or any type of test that has multiple choice, what choice are you going to choose?
So hold up. So this Irvin and her son, was there a relationship between Bobby and them? Did he know them?
He did.
He did. No.
Yes.
Were they classmates? Were they friends?
They're friends from school.
They're friends from school. But the mother had no idea they were coming by.
No, the mother picked them up.
No. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So when Bobby was at home, was anyone else home?
No. His dad made it home. There's some timing issues of whether his dad got home versus, but she, being the adult, picked him up without his father's permission from his father's house and took him to their residence.
She picks him up. She doesn't communicate at all with the mother father. They had no idea picking them up.
Absolutely no idea.
They had no idea she was taking them to the house.
Nope.
So what story has she given to explain how Bobby went from their house to dead? First of all, where he was found, how far is that from their house?
A hop, skip, and a jump.
So did she or her son say Bobby left their home and ran off or something?
That excuse they're giving.
And so Bobby, let's say for the sake of the discussion, we accept that Bobby runs off. Did they run after Bobby? Or did they just let Bobby run out the house and went, all right, he gone?
Allegedly, they went looking for him for a little while and then decided, you know what? I guess even though he's 30 minutes from his house.
And at no point did Irvin or her son call the cops to say this 15-year-old boy who was at our house ran away. They just went to sleep.
Oh, sure, they did. A day and a half later, Janet decided on her lunch break that it was kind of important to inform police at that time.
Wait, a day and a half later? Wait a minute, hold up. So you mean tell me Bobby leaves, according to them, Bobby leaves, he's gone. The next day, her son or her don't call the house to check to see if Bobby got home safe.
Nope.
Then the day after that, they go, oh, I guess we ought to call the cops.
You believe it.
Okay. Who is leading the investigation? Is it the Area Sheriff's Department? Is it the state? Who's leading this investigation?
The Sheriff's Department right now has the investigation.
Do you trust them to run this investigation?
Listen, there's a whole lot of stuff going on in policing within the state of Louisiana right now, and in regards to investigations of missing children, in regards of excessive force cases. I'm hopeful that they do the right thing. I'm hopeful that although this is late, in the next step or this step in the right direction will lead to dominoes that will ultimately give the family the peace they deserve. But I'm not going to hold my breath. And it's sad for me to say that. I wish to tell you something differently. I think you can look at how long it took to arrest Janet Irvin on, again, the very odd charge of failing to report a missing child. You don't need a toxicology report to get arrested for that. You don't need an independent autopsy or official autopsy to come back to arrest somebody for that. We know she didn't report him missing from the first week.
Ronald Haley, we appreciate it. We certainly covering this story. Keep us updated on what happens next.
Absolutely. Take care, Roland.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Guys, go to the break. We'll be back at Roland Martin in a moment. What still impacts and what creates change is when we mobilize. When we say we're not powerless, and if I get with you and you and you, and all of a sudden it's 10, then 20, then 100, then 500, then 2,000, then 5,000. All of a sudden you have mobilized people. That creates that voting power. And then when you throw somebody out, it catches their attention real quick.
But not only just that, they have to know what it is that they're standing for. Because if you have friends that talks politics, then of course we're having a decent conversation and I'm being educated at the same time. But if my group of people are not talking about that, then I still don't know. So I can unite with you, And then I'm making sure that you have the voice, but what if you don't have the courage to speak? So you're still getting a group of people together that don't know how to do nothing.
Hi, I'm Teresa Griffin.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Next week, the House Judiciary Subcommittee on the Constitution, Civil Rights, and Civil Liberties set to hear testimony on a reparations bill. Last month, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee announced the bill titled H.R. 40, which will be reintroduced in order to create a Reparations Commission. The commission will study the history of slavery, the role state governments played in supporting slavery, and racial discrimination against the descendants of enslaved Africans. Lee says the commission would make recommendations for any form of apology, compensation, and atonement for slavery. She believes economic issues are the root cause for many critical issues impacting the African-American community today. And so that's going to come before the committee next week. Let's go our panel on this one. Greg, here's what's interesting. Yeah, we were talking yesterday, and I was dealing with some folks on this, and we had Ron, actually a few days ago, when we had Ron Busby on. And I made the point because what happens is it's a bunch of folks out here, they're posting stuff, they're like, Biden signed an executive order specifically for Asians. Where's our black specific executive order? And they're trying to walk folks through that, trying to get them to understand exactly what the executive order is. Then Talbert, I forgot his last name, he posted something criticizing me when I talked about race-specific remedies. And so he then throws out, well, the Japanese got these $20,000 checks for internment camps. And I said, well, that was a very specific law for a specific incident, and that was a specific remedy for that. I had to then these people try and tell me, well, no, but it never happened with black people. Well, actually, the black farmer settlement is an example of a specific remedy for a specific group. One of the things that I was talking to a lawyer who supports reparations, he says that he believes a stronger argument for African Americans is to use the Jim Crow laws of redlining in federal housing policy, because there are African Americans who are still living who were impacted by that. And that's actually in terms of you're making an argument to create legal redress, as opposed to the argument of slavery coming forward. Your thoughts?
I think we have to start with having a basic understanding of the long struggle for reparations in this country. It begins, ironically, with the theft of Africans to this country. The case of the Amistad being one of the, most prominent cases, but certainly not the only one. When Dred and Harriet Scott sued for their freedom, there's a reparations element in the legal argument they're making. And during the Civil War in Davis Bend, Mississippi, in the Sea Islands of South Carolina, which is where we get the concept of 40 acres and a mule, field orders 15 in both of those states, there was the attempt by some of the military to take the land that was confiscated from the traders to the federal government and give it to the formerly enslaved as a form of reparations, and thereby create an invested class of new citizens in the South. That was the moment the United States lost the possibility to be anything other than what it is now, which is a deteriorating, failing state. The concept of reparations and legal arguments for it go back right after the Civil War to Callie House and the ex-slave mutual pension relief fund, where you had those who said, I was enslaved and I need reparations. Those who are arguing that there's a legal strategy and that it should depend on those who incurred harm are either not aware of the fact that those arguments have been made and dismissed over the years, or they are arguing in bad faith or ignorance. They just don't know. I'm saying all that to say this as a prelude. The question of reparations, and by the way, the shift in H.R. 40 from the years that Congressman Conyers introduced it every session, except the session when Barack Obama was president and they had both houses. And, as far as folks who say, this is why you don't make politicians your friends. They may look like you. You may have pride in them. But please understand, politicians do whatever the hell is in their best interest. The change in H.R. 40 now with Sheila Jackson Lee and the one that Congressman Conyers introduced year after year is that it's going to make recommendations. That's the major change. And as someone who has been a member of the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America now for over 20 years, my dear friends Mashariki and Kamal Jawanza in Indianapolis, Mashariki is the female co-chair. The male co-chair, Cam Howard, will be testifying next week, a week from I guess today. Understand that this reparations argument is one that is political, it's cultural, and it will be won or lost, not in a courtroom or one specific courtroom or one piece of policy. It will be won as this country concedes to try to remain a country. And this is why I'm trying, and let me be a little bit more specific about this. It's a very important book by Catherine Franke, who's a professor in the law school at Columbia. It's called Repair. She's a white woman, and she says, the missed opportunity to redistribute wealth in this country, which really is not organized around cash money, but property. See, that's why the thing that happened in the wake of the Civil War is so important. If they had transferred that property instead of giving it back to the plantation owners, you know, they went so far, the federal government, to track down the descendants of those who own those plantations and compensate them for the land that had been redistributed. If they had done that, we wouldn't be faced with this now. What Franke says is, and this is why the reparations bill is so important, because it's just to build a study and make recommendations. What if you had a heavy investment in community land trusts, community ownership, in other words, a shifting of fundamental nature of the economy of this country to deal specifically as a remedy in terms of race? What if there were a generational tax imposed on those who, by virtue of the fact that they are white, inherited a status? See, this is where we don't get into this ADOS foolishness. Everybody slow down, okay? Because it isn't just about who was enslaved. It's about now what attaches to blackness as a consequence of enslavement. So I don't care where you come from in the world.
Greg,
of America, blackness attaches to you as a form of stigma.
Greg, the ADOS and the foundational black people going to be upset with you.
All of you. I want all of the smoke. Because it's baby smoke, number one. And number two, I'm a descendant of those who was enslaved. And number three, bring your best in fact, bring them all. In the words of William Rakim Griffith, I take 7 MCs, put them in a line, and then find 7 more brothers who think they can rhyme. Then find 7 more before I go for mine. And that's 21 MCs. 8 up. At the same time. So the point is that, because when you see this, you understand is, there's no argument against reparations except you don't want your country to continue. And so the bottom line, Franke says, is, she says, I'm a white woman. My people came here from somewhere else. But when I came here, I inherited whiteness. And so as a consequence, my family was able to make some wealth. In the wealth transfer, I'm open to perhaps a 5% tax on people above a certain inheritance, and that money then go to community land trusts, health care, these kind of things, which are then targeted to these communities that have suffered generationally as a consequence. And I'm saying that that's not just reparations for black people, that's giving your little ass country a chance to survive, because if you don't remedy this, it's over, baby. It's not going to last another century, because we're going to take it. We're going to take it. And we're not going to take it from Washington, D.C. We're going to take it from Atlanta and Detroit. We're going to take it from Jacksonville, Mississippi, and Birmingham. We're going to take it from Nashville and Memphis. We're going to take it, in other words, for all those places that very shortly will be majority non-white. And there'll never be another Coach Tuberville reduced to being introduced to the United States Senate, because Alabama's going another way. And it ain't red and it ain't blue. It's black. Wait for it.
Somebody just sent me a text and they said, please tell Greg I will break him off a piece for that.
Put some content up on your channel. It's going to be some embarrassment.
That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying. And don't forget, Erica, my boy is with me right here.
Oop. Don't do it.
Your boy. You know what?
I'm saying, since folks want to break Greg off a piece, I just want to go ahead and just cite that there. Bottom line here is that the thing here, Erica.
Yeah.
The thing here, Erica, is interesting because Greg called out the ADOS FBA people. And I love it when they try to come at me, because they like, because you said reparation was a pipe dream a few years ago. I was like, yeah, because I don't trust white America. I said, I don't. I said, I don't trust. I said, show me 218 votes in the House. Show me 60 in the Senate. I said, I don't. If I didn't trust, I wasn't even here. If these folks did not get reparations, 40 acres and a mule back then, and going through now, look, we sure know how they feel right now. So this is what I said. I said, I can make an argument for reparations. I said, I can walk through the text. I can break it all down, give it all. I said, I'm talking about what the end result is. I don't trust they are going to do it. But what I'm going to do, and see, this is the difference that people don't understand. See, I've had Cobra and others on my shows, have talked to folks, ain't got no problem whatsoever. But what I'm also going to do is, while they have made that their focus, I'm going for the existing money right now.
Right.
See, there are, as the sister said yesterday, the federal government spends a budget of $4.4 trillion annual budget. She's talking about what they spend right now. I'm also going at what they're spending right now. See, you can do both. If you want to make reparations your focus, good. If I'm making this my focus, good. I'm going after the money. But I'm understanding that to get that money requires a whole different game plan than what I'm talking about, because that money, you got to get 218 in the House, 60 in the Senate, and a president who's going to sign it, and it has to withstand a judicial challenge. The problem, Erica, is you got all of these punk-ass YouTube historians with no credentials feeding people simpleton information and not walking them through the nuance and the reality and the facts on this issue.
Right, because who is Nuance? Where does she live? What school does she go to? When you're talking about, this is a whole platform that's dedicated to educating, and that the host himself is very much so versed because this is his vocation. You know, Dr. Carr just walks through it, and so, and amen to that. And then the other piece that I would also challenge is that, you know, going back to the keyboard coward stuff, I'm going to put my trust, I'm going to put a level of, you have my ear, I am listening to you, to a Dr. Greg Carr, who is not only a scholar and one of our luminaries of this time, but it is actually committed to reparations by representation of being a part of this commission for well over 20 years. So that's where I'm going to put my stock and grade in. As it relates to this country, you know, we've not even had the courage to have the truth commissions that we have seen other nations do, namely Rwanda and other countries in Germany. So when we think about what it will take to actually make this a lie, we have to also say, then what has America been willing to do as it concerns their own soil, their domestic soil, as it relates to the genocide of Native Americans and the torture, killing, and enslavement of Black people. So for people that are really looking to actually be connected, studied in this, go to people who actually have scholarship and have actually researched and have studied in it. I'm going to be more apt to listen to a Dr. Greg Carr than, you know, the advent of Twitter and everybody who's an expert on reparations.
See, the reason, and I love the people who ask like some dude, he goes, see, this is why I don't support the show, but your ass watching.
Come through.
We're hot tonight, man. Yeah, every week.
But you watching. So really what you doing is you loading.
Oh. Come on.
Hello.
See, you want to come here and soak up all that we given, but then you want somebody else to contribute to the building fund. See, and the thing here that I lay out here, Reese, again, I'm talking about what are undeniable facts. When people sit here and yell, I support reparations, I then ask, what you doing?
What you doing?
What are you doing? How are you moving towards 218? Because see, for the people who don't know nothing, The Constitution stipulates where any bill that involves money starts.
Mm-hmm.
Do your YouTube historians know that?
Come on.
The Constitution stipulates any bill that deals with money starts in the House.
That's right.
It's so you can't even see when y'all were yelling, Senator Kamala Harris, what's it? You can't get to the Senate until you deal with the House.
That's right.
Which means you got to get 218 in the House. So if you are doing nothing to get to 218, all you doing is running your mouth.
That's right.
Hello.
Reese, the folk who hollering, where Biden on this? Biden is third in the process.
Right.
There's the House. There's the Senate. If it passes the House, passes the Senate, it goes to the White House.
Right.
So if you ain't focused on the 218, then what you doing? All you doing is running your mouth. Reese, go ahead.
That's right.
And here's the ironic part. I mean, in the last session of Congress, the HR 40 Commission had the most number of co-sponsors that had ever been on that bill. It was 173 co-sponsors. And what did certain groups do? People like Ice Cube, they attacked the supporters of HR 40 Commission. They attacked Sheila Jackson Lee over it. I did a search to see how often are these folks that are so pro-reparations saying any of this stuff about tangibles, Black agenda vote, we want reparations. How often are they actually approaching Mitch McConnell or Kevin McCarthy about this? I didn't find hardly any mentions of it. And so if you want something to happen, instead of attacking, which is a commission. By the way, when that commission passed in California, these same people were celebrating Ice Cube, and Ice Cube got us reparations commissions in California. But then at the federal level, and I compared the legislative text, there's hardly any difference. But all of a sudden, when it comes to the federal level, when it comes to attacking the conscience of the Congress, which is the Congressional Black Caucus, which has been behind this for decades, now all of a sudden it's not good enough. Now all of a sudden they're selling out the Black community. Now all of a sudden all the smoke is for the people who signed on instead of getting to 218 like you said, Roland. So it doesn't make any sense, the approach in which is to attack the co-sponsors, to attack Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, which, by the way, they said wasn't an American descendant of slaves, so she shouldn't have been introducing the reparations bill, which makes no sense. Why are you attacking her? She's the sponsor of it. And the other part I want to mention is that one thing we have to do, reparations absolutely needs to happen. I think this commission needs to happen. But one thing that gets lost, and to your point, Roland, what do we have now? How do we get a piece of that pie? Is the repair part. And Dr. Carr really laid out so many examples of repair. The way that we repair is through things like home ownership. And I remember during the primaries when Senator Kamala Harris put forth $100 billion home ownership gap plan. Now, as a lot of people don't understand, you cannot have race-specific quotas in the federal government. You just cannot do that. There are very limited circumstances in which that's allowed. So what VP Kamala Harris suggested back then was, let's tailor it. Let's have the language so that it's targeting the red line communities, the people that are still there. They had to be there. It couldn't be gentrifiers like Trump's opportunity zones. And it was a $100 billion investment, which would have closed the home ownership gap between Black homeowners and white homeowners. And they said, well, it's not just only Black people. So that's where we outsmart ourselves, because we have to have the word Black in front of it, when the word Black in front of it makes it unconstitutional and completely unlikely for it to even withstand a Supreme Court or even Circuit Court challenge. And so when we want to look at reparations, we look at the reparations bill, yes, which the commission in theory would find ways around all these damn laws that they pass or recommend new laws being passed. But let's also focus on the repair part of what needs to happen in our society and embrace that, and say and recognize where we're disproportionately targeted in a negative way and how we can also disproportionately benefit. And when somebody is trying to put forth solutions that will disproportionately impact our community in a positive way, let's get behind that instead of saying it's not Black enough or it's only for Black people. We still win at getting a piece of the pie.
But here's the other deal. What gets me is the folk who doing all the yelling about what we ain't getting from Biden, them punk asses said don't vote.
That's true.
You can't look for logic, bro.
I mean, Greg, I got these ignorant fools trying to come at me. You ain't doing nothing but supporting Biden and you supporting Hillary. Well, what your ass get with Trump? See, this, I'm just going, and the reason I purposely don't mention these ignorant fools, because one, they do videos featuring what I say because they can't bring an audience.
Hello.
See, when you can't bring your own audience, you got to bring my name up because you know I got more followers than you do. So when you bring up my name, it goes into the algorithm and then it get. See, I know y'all game. See, so it don't really benefit me to bring your individual names up because you don't bring any following.
Right.
So that's like, me inviting you to the cookout, knowing full well your ass can cook. So the thing here is this. They're lying to people. What they're doing, Greg, is they are grifters who are operating on the emotions of Black people,
Yes.
but they're not providing them critical information that can walk them through how to make these things happen. So if the person who is talking to you about what we need to get from members of Congress and Biden on reparations, but they were the same fools telling you not to vote, why in the hell are you listening to them? Two, if those people out there running their mouths, if they cannot properly explain to you how bills are formulated, where they start, how they go through the process, and how you achieve the results, then all they doing is pumping y'all full of hot air, getting you all excited, and boo, all you doing is having, let me go ahead and say it, you're having nothing more than YouTube rhetorical masturbation session.
I knew you was gonna put that fire on them, bro. And we're about, and rightfully so. We're having some fun with this. We're laughing because it's a family conversation. That's another reason this is so important. But what you're really underscoring, what we're all underscoring, I think, in fact, I know, is the importance of us having to be organized and to have all these opinions so that we can see how everything works together. None of us have the answer. I know I don't have the answer, but Reese, when you describe the possibility of transfer for home ownership, that's a piece of it. And when you also talk about the fact, people are saying, y'all didn't support, and the emotional piece, Erica, that you raise is critical to this. There is an intangible thing. It's kind of the third ray of the reparations struggle that is difficult to articulate because there is a wounding. The last 500 years, we have been wounded. And some of us have been wounded so deeply that we look to these people or to the people who now identify with whiteness, to evoke James Baldwin, for relief, as if they owe us. But see, this is the problem. This isn't a mathematical equation. Countries are not based on justice. They're not based on morals. That's a mistake people make when Cory Booker or Joe Biden said, we're better than this. No, we're not. There's no we and there's no better. There's just power. Right. That's what you can take, as A. Philip Randolph said. You always quote but when you start talking about truth and reconciliation, there hasn't been a Truth and Reconciliation Commission involving African people anywhere, including Africa. The one in South Africa even failed. Ask them. Them damn police that killed Steve Biko didn't ever come completely clean. That's one reason why people in South Africa are like, look, we're going to be cool until Madiba goes. When Mandela dies, we get in our land. So at some point, there has to be a reckoning. You understand? Yeah. And I'm not talking about, and I respect, with all due respect to Equal Justice Initiative and the thing they've done in Alabama, we need to memorialize our people. We need to recognize that pain, but with all due respect, I don't want to see any more memorials where we just getting our ass whipped. I'd like to see Have you had the courage to put one memorial to the white people you killed to get your freedom? I mean, I want to see some statues of some, people with their heads cut off. So maybe Stono or Pointe Coupé or Nat Turner. Some of that, or them people where Harriet Tubman showed them on the Combahee River in South Carolina where to burn the plantation and get my people out here, liberate 700 people in one damn swoop. Can we get some minds to that? But let me not get off track, because Roland, what you articulated is very important, brother. We have to be able to come together in coalition, anchored in independent Black institutions as the center, not as joining a coalition, so that when this thing changes, and it's changing slowly, you can't see change up close. You got to see how it's changing. There's a Black woman now, Deborah Archer, who is the first Black woman to lead the American Civil Liberties Union. She and Anthony Romero, who has been there for 20 years in leadership, they are moving now. The ACLU has said they're going to lobby for this bill in partnership with Cobra and the reparations formations. They've also said they're going to invest $40 million in the South, and they're switching part of their thrust from First Amendment defense to racial justice and equity. That is a direct result of organizing. You heard the brother in Louisiana. When you see what happened to that young brother in Louisiana, it's local organizers who have been pushing this. How's this fit to reparations? As you are pushing, and I agree with my friend Jared Ball and others, we're not talking about Black buying power being strong enough to do the kind of things we imagine it can do. We know that. And we know that it comes to the reparation question in this way. What you just said, Reese, about ownership and home ownership and land. When they did not do what they were supposed to do during Reconstruction, if there had been any morals in this country, they divided those old plantation land up and gave and sold the land off to speculators from Massachusetts, from New York. Mark Sanford's family bought property in South Carolina, and they sold the land from under the Black people, and then those people turned around and turned all those formerly enslaved Africans into wage employees, either through sharecropping or debt peonage or low-wage employees. In other words, they set up the foundation for the modern South. What we have not done is we haven't taken the time to learn and educate ourselves about the fact that money is not ownership. That the base of this country is property.
There you go.
And so when you are pursuing a reparation strategy, you have to push federal policy. You also have to push state and local policy. You have to do it from your independent institutions in coalition with others, so that when the day comes that you can put pressure on a state government or a local government to reform who can and can't get a loan. You people, voting don't matter. Shut your ass up and understand that there is no one way to this. This is a common spectrum strategy. I know I'm going long, so let me stop with this. The thing we can't get our hands around is the deepest thing of all, and that's that intangible thing that messes us up. That's what animates an O'Shea Jackson. I know, brother Q. That's what animates the minister. I know Minister Farrakhan. That's what animates my friend Jeremiah Wright. Y'all wounded us. We can't even look at ourselves and confess to the depth of the wounding of enslavement. Jesus. That's why we get mad at each other before we get mad at white people, because we don't expect shit from white people. We see in the eyes of each other that ass whipping, that rape, that goddamn murder, that foot cut off, that shit right there. Yes. I don't know how we grapple with that, because that's the thing that's driving us to get at each other's throats. It's not hatred of the person, it's deep shame, hatred, self-hatred, and we got to root that out. And part of it, I'm afraid, is going to be we're going to have to drop this worship of white people. It don't. No, I ain't talking about calling white people names. I ain't talking about arguing with white people. I'm talking about the thing in you that makes you look, as Malcolm X said, who taught you to hate yourself? You got to master go. You got to stop worshiping them. Give up their Grammys, give up their funded NAACP awards, give up their book awards, give up their New York Times bestseller lists. Get up. They're arguing with them about anti-racism. Get off the "we're black, I am a man, Black Lives Matter." God damn it, get up off it. Love yourself. And let's get something out of this.
Which is why what I keep trying to tell y'all, if there are people out there and their agenda's reparations, good. Lead. Organize. Mobilize. Have a plan. Make it happen. I've articulated what I'm working on. I know what I'm doing when it comes to driving the federal government, when it comes to Black media spending. when it comes to Pentagon contracts and HHS contracts and commerce contracts. I had somebody say, well, Roland, your police contracts not going to help to under the bridge. Dumbass, who you think going to hire them?
That's right.
Who do you think? Who do you think? I keep telling y'all, prior to COVID, there are 2.6 million black-owned businesses. 2.5 million only had one employee. So of those 100,000 black-owned businesses, who do you think they hire? Folks who look largely like them. See, that's what happens when you run your mouth, and that's all you doing. You don't write no checks. What you do is you go to a payday lender because you don't hire anybody. And see, I see y'all comments, well, you need to have folks on. So you want me to put the same people on my show who trashed me when I started my show, who said I was going to be a failure?
My God.
Do you know what I told them? I said, y'all good. Y'all do y'all show. I'm good. And y'all, I'm good. I don't watch their shows. If y'all want to watch any of them shows, knock yourselves out. If y'all want to watch their videos, knock yourselves out. We gonna do over here what we do.
Come on, brother.
And I'm gonna lay out to y'all what our agenda is. I'm gonna tell you what I don't fight for, what I do fight for. I'm gonna tell you what I emphasize, what I don't emphasize. And what I'm trying to explain to you is this here. If you gonna come at me on a reparations conversation, you might want to have all your facts together about how it gets done. Because see, you a damn fool yelling reparations, but then you yelling vote down ballot. Well, how you gonna get federal reparations if you voting down ballot? It happens up ballot. See, y'all, don't be a simpleton. Don't be a simpleton. What you should be doing is educating the people on the process on how to get there. What you should be doing is doing what Greg said, going reading about Cali, going reading about the folk who came before somebody who created a hashtag, to understand what was the underpinnings of their argument, which laid the foundation for what is happening present day. See, I'm not sitting here saying, oh my God, I know everything when it comes to media, because see, I actually learned and studied and saw what John H. Johnson, Lerone Bennett, Chuck Stone, what Simeon Booker, what Frederick Douglass, what Ida B. Wells Barnett and Robert Abbott and A.I. Scott and John Worstrom and Samuel Cornish understood, Freedom's Journal understood, Pittsburgh Courier understood, all of the, it's called being a student of your game.
Yes, sir.
So if you are a reparations advocate, you need to be explaining to your people how you're going to get to 218. And to Reese's point, it's not wise to shit on the very people who are part of the 218.
Come on, brother.
Because if you the kind of person who's about to get evicted and you need me to give $1,000, it's probably not wise to cuss me out. If I'm holding 1,000, that's gonna keep you from getting evicted. Because I can always keep my 1,000.
That's right.
Folks, y'all better understand strategy and how it gets done. Folks, that is it for us. We have some other stuff we're going to cover. We're going to leave it right there. I want to do this. If y'all want to support what we do here at Martin Unfiltered, a black-owned media company, it's the purpose of this show. Dr. Maya Angelou told me this, and I told her, I said, no, I'm not. She says, no. She said, Roland, you're a teacher. And I said, no. I said, my brother's a teacher. She said, no. She said, I watch you. She says, you're a teacher. Folks, we use this to teach. We use this to empower you. We use this to fortify you. We use this platform not to drive somebody else's agenda. We use this platform where we set our own agenda and allow people to be able to go forth when it comes to the issues they care about. And so that's why we support what we do. And let me be real clear. Y'all not going to agree with us on everything. Y'all not going to agree with Reese and Greg and Erica on everything they bring up. And ain't nothing wrong with that.
No.
But what y'all not going to do is this here. Y'all ain't going to shut us up.
At all.
So y'all can do all of the loud and wrong YouTube videos y'all want to, and y'all can try to share them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and whatever you want to. But let me explain to you what's gonna happen. We gonna hit you with facts, and then we gonna back it up, and then we gonna smack your ass in the face with them twice. Then we gonna embarrass you when you try to come at us. And we're going to clap back with facts and then make you look stupid in front of your own people.
Period.
That's why we do what we do. Because the problem is there are too many of our people who are walking around wholly ignorant, where you are operating on solely emotion in response to issues. If you are out there, for all y'all who was hyped about Byron Allen and his Comcast lawsuit, that was fine. What you should be now saying is, how many black jobs? How many black contracts? What are we building? What's the black collective?
That's right.
If the NAACP and the Urban League want black support for something, that's good. Our response then is, what are you doing in return for us? That's all I'm saying. So this show, y'all, is about power.
That's right.
This is about black power. This is about black information. This is about getting an understanding of where we need to go. As King said, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? We are trying to build a community that can remove us from chaos. So when you give, you are building a community that allows for us to be able to transform and change minds. You want to support us via Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal.me/RMartinUnfiltered.com, Venmo.com/RM, Roland at Roland.com. Of course, a money order to Vision Media Inc., 16 20th Street Northwest, Suite 400, C 2006. To add the ad to the graphic, I would appreciate that. Let's see here. Your program continues to give the black community much needed information that empowers us to navigate in this environment. We've been today. If you don't have essential information, you have no power. Barbara Ford, Aggie Pride. Barbara, I appreciate that, as well as your donation to our Bring the Funk fan club. Hi, Mr. Martin. I'm Miss Laura Fail. I love watching you on YouTube every day, and you talk about things that matter in the black community. I want to join the Bring the Funk fan club. Here's $80, $50 for this year, $30 for last year.
Come on now.
See, that's what I'm talking about. I sent you $20 at the end of December 2020. P.S. Keep up the good work. Do not stop. Thank you, Laura Fennell. Dana Dewerson, I'm wishing you continued success. P.S. I watch your YouTube videos. I'm not a subscriber. I love the video. Too many black people's lives are being dictated by white validation. Dana, she don't subscribe, but she sent a $100 check. So, Dana, I appreciate that. Let's see, Eugene Harmon, he wrote, y'all. Eugene, I got to help you out, Eugene.
Uh-oh.
Eugene said, hello there. I will get directly to the point, and is this the correct address to make a donation to the Mr. Martin YouTube program? And do you accept checks? Eugene sent me a letter and put his email. Eugene, you could have emailed me.
It's the right place, Eugene. It got there.
So, Eugene, unfortunately, Eugene, I literally cannot make out your email. I'm going to try to guess it, so I'm going to send an email. No, I can't. I'm going to send an email to it. But, Eugene, all you got to do is go to RolandSMartin.com, click contact. You can send an email to me direct, and I'll respond to your email. But I will respond to that. Y'all support us, give to us directly. And again, I appreciate y'all supporting us on YouTube. But any money you give to us on YouTube, we get 55%, they get 45%. So if you give us $50, we get 55 of your $50, they get 45. So give the money to us directly, we get the whole 50, and then allows us to do what we do, because we got some exciting things. I'm going to be in St. Louis next week doing a town hall for Tashara Jones, who's running for St. Louis mayor. I'm going to also be doing on-the-ground interviews with Kim Gardner, with also Wesley Bell, with the head of the St. Louis Area Urban League, also my man Tef Poe. And then we're doing some other stuff the following week. I'll let you know about that. That's why you support this here, because trust me, ain't no other show. You can do the Black Network, you can go to CNN, you can go to MSNBC, you can go all you want to. Ain't no other show blacker than this one that's giving you, that's bringing the funk, giving you what we do with the panels that we do and the guests that we do. And that's why y'all got to support it. And so if you even attempt to question our blackness, I'm going to get the baby powder and smack your ass. Erica, Reese, and Greg, I appreciate it. Thanks so much. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Don't forget, so let me do this here. Ashley's filling in tomorrow. I got to go on a trip. My wife's birthday is the 13th. Normally we at NBA All-Star Game, so we'll be hanging out. So I'm going to see y'all on Monday. But we will have the Otis Williams interview. I interviewed the last original Temptation about Mary Wilson. Y'all, we're going to air that interview tomorrow. Also, a black woman who owns a COVID testing facility. One of the few black people in America. You're going to hear her interview as well. I told y'all, ain't nobody else doing what we doing. So forget them YouTube historians and follow the Real Black Show. The Real Black Media. In the words of Charlie Wilson, I'm old school and new school. Holla!